So I'm Dean, I'm a mental health link worker and integrative counsellor at Healthbox. My role's to work with clients from the Ellesmere Port PCN. I also work with students and assess clients for counselling.
I'm Andy. I'm the social prescribing link worker for Ellesmere Port here at Healthbox. I'm also a qualified counsellor, integrative counsellor, mainly experience really of CBT, psychodynamic and person-centred. My background really, it's probably working with vulnerable adults, homelessness, addiction issues, and also people who are trying to integrate back into society from spells in prison. Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, nice. And today we're going to talk about mindfulness and stuff that we've covered with clients, stuff that we've used ourselves as well.
Of course, really. I think it's like a bit of a buzzword, isn't it? Mindfulness at the moment. What does it mean to you? Mindfulness. How do you?
I think it's something that you can use on your own, but also in a group as well. And I think it's something that we can always have access to. It's usually free to us, isn't it? If there's a lot online. But I guess it's that little tool in the box that you can always go back to if you're struggling, really. Yeah,
I mean, it's the same for me. I think mindfulness, it's as I say, it's a bit of a buzzword, isn't it? But really, it's kind of being in the present, isn't it? Bringing your attention to the here and now rather than letting your mind wander. Anxiety, depression. It's bringing it back to where we are at this present moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the main things, I practice mindfulness, and I don't mean to sound big-headed when I say that. It's just that I find it helps, even just on a day-to-day basis, really. I find when I'm in the present, I'm less anxious, or I'm looking at events differently. Yeah. You know what I mean? It seems to have the right emotional balance when I'm in the present. So there's positives definitely to practicing it every day, isn't there?
Yeah. I think that's it. You've hit the nail on the head. It is about regulating your emotions, really, isn't it? Actually making sense of stuff when things are overwhelming or there's lots going on in your mind.
Of course.
Actually just taking a step back. Yeah. Whether it's I always use the motorway or a busy road as an example. Of the thoughts of the cars, and there's lots and lots of them, rather than getting in the middle of the traffic and trying to stop it. Actually just take a seat back and observe them, really, and just notice what's going on.
And it's that observation in the moment for me, and it's easy, isn't it, when you're not in a situation where you have to be mindful. It's easy talking about it, but when you are in the situation, it's difficult, isn't it? Because your emotion takes over and you're in it. For me, it's bringing it right back to breath, isn't it? I'm trying to ground myself as much as I possibly can in the situation as it is in that present moment, rather than letting my head and my thoughts run away with it. Catastrophe thinking, and making it bigger than maybe it possibly is. But it's difficult to do if you've never come across it, isn't it? If it's something you practice, it's like going to the gym. It becomes easier and more natural. It kind of takes over without you realising what you're doing, I suppose.
Absolutely.
But that takes practice. And at the beginning, it's difficult. It's difficult to bring your awareness into the present. So how would you do that, Dean?
I think in terms of actually practicing, I think some exercises that we've used with clients, the likes of even just like the gratitude journal, actually just giving yourself a bit of perspective with things. But I think just going back to what you were saying just around routine, when something new comes into your routine, it can feel a bit strange, or wondering when I'm going to actually find the time to it. But I guess our mind is probably the thing that gets neglected the most, isn't it? If we're in physical pain, usually we reach out. Emotional pain, we recognise it, but actually our mind, our emotions, that's usually the the last thing we look at, really, isn't it? We usually let that get as bad as it does, or more intense, before actually bringing something in to help.
Yeah, I think it's when people are struggling maybe with their emotions, or with the mental health. It's easy to go up to someone with a broken arm, isn't it, and say, well, this is why I'm in pain, because my arms are broken and I'm in plaster. It's much more difficult to explain to someone. It might be your thinking, your thought process, and hopefully that this mindful or practicing mindfulness helps alleviate. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. The stress and the strain you're under in that particular moment, maybe. Yeah,
absolutely. And as you say, just even having some tools to call on. You said earlier, actually being in the moment, that's the hardest thing, to actually be able to see help.
Of course,
if you're experiencing it, you're in it, you're wondering where the help is.
Yeah.
But I guess podcasts like this and actually little exercises, we're aware of them. Hopefully if other people are as well, it can be something people call upon for.
And it's not. I mean, we'll talk about different ways to be mindful, if you like. It's accessible to everyone on every level, really. You don't have to be some Buddha halfway up a Tibetan hill, do you? Meditating for 8.5 hours a day, and that's obviously. Or that's what I pictured before I knew all about mindfulness, meditation, things like that. And it's just a way of separating me from getting well, I suppose, because it's putting a block. I would never be able to be that Buddha up the Tibetan mountain, so why even try? So what we're trying to do here is just break it down, aren't we, into little bite-sized pieces that are attainable on a day-to-day basis and aren't even going to affect your day probably that much, really, would they?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what we
whether
try,
it's
isn't it?
2 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, setting achievable time aside, really, not setting yourself up to fail by I've got to do this and there's lots of pressure, because it is practice, isn't it? That's the key word that you hear with all this. It's mindfulness practice. And actually, is anybody perfect at it and perfect at meditating?
No, I don't think they are. And I think no, I don't think anybody is, and that's why it has to be. It's a practice exercise, isn't it? And it's the very fact that it's not one of those things that's mastered, and then you're away. Well, I'm enlightened, I'm mindful, so I don't have trouble anymore. That's not life, is it? So it is the very fact and the word, that it's being practiced. It's a daily thing for me. And like you say, whether it be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, some days I'm great at it. Other days I fail completely, but that's life, isn't it? So so with regards to mindfulness, what do you think, or what can we practice on a day-to-day basis that maybe? How do we start? How do we start with it?
I guess a short meditation could be something to try. But if actually sitting still, focusing on the breath, or even just maybe observing your thoughts is difficult, short exercises, actually writing stuff down can help. But I guess it is just about trying what works for you, really. That's the key thing, isn't it? And not having too much pressure, because I know for me, I've recommended some of these exercises to clients. I've tried them myself, and actually all of them don't work for me. It's whatever you think you can connect with, I guess. Actually, is it a breathing exercise? Is it just going for a mindful walk and actually just observing this is where I am? Being in nature, I guess. Being aware of your surroundings, bringing your mind back to the present moment. So I guess it is about trying what works for you, really. How about yourself? What do you think?
I think I mean I have tried all the elements, and if you go on, sometimes you can get overwhelmed with information, can't you? So some people will say there's 5 points to mindfulness, and then the website underneath it on your Google search will say, well, there's actually 8, and then there's 10, and it seems as though it's and then again it's that being overwhelmed, that there's too much information, it's overload, and it's making the situation worse than it is. For me, I kind of it was the breathing for me. It was as though I always had kind of like a shallow breath, And when I mean that, it was always kind of hurried, or it never kind of got past there, that area. I didn't realise you could breathe down here.
Filling your lungs.
Yeah, and then filling your stomach and kind of putting your focus of your mind, rather than being in your head and just stopping your breathing there. If you do actually put your focus behind your belly button.
And taking a deep breath.
Wow, it does make a difference. So I find the breathing practices, and there's loads of meditations there for breathing especially, extremely beneficial to me, but I know other people don't, so there's no kind of right or wrong answer. No. Like you said before, didn't you, about the gratitude lists, or just a list of what's good and bad. I struggle with them. Through practice, I've realised I struggle with them.
Okay. Because it's easier to see negative things rather than positive things in your day.
So even when I'll sit down with pen and paper at the end of the day, my negative list is usually, I can flow with my negative list, and when it comes to my positive list, I was sitting there going, I haven't got any, or 2 or 3, or I'll even, my mind will be that, confused, the wrong word, my mind will be maybe that busy, that even if it is a positive and it should be on that side, I can dismiss it and think, actually, no, that wasn't a positive, that was just something that I was expected to do anyway. You know?
Definitely. I think for me, just hearing that, if one bad thing happens in a week, sometimes I'll be guilty of saying, I've had a bad week. And in reality, have I? You know, there's probably multiple things that have gone well for me that week. But one bad thing happens. It's a bad week. But in reality, it's probably just a bad day or a bad moment in the day. Rather than it being a full bad day. So I guess that's why those gratitude journals can help. Just a bit of perspective, really. If your mind's full and it's racing and you're thinking about, something terrible that's happened, which I'm sure will happen to all of us and has happened to all of us, actually just a bit of perspective of, what has gone well for me today or what's gone well for me this week. I think they're good questions to ask yourself, really.
Yeah, I do. And I think we live in a society that is more, the forefront of your mind is either what you haven't got, where you're not rather than where you are, and who you're not with rather than the people that you are with. And it's maybe slowing that process down in order to see the benefits of actually where you are rather than the perspective of the mind. Because the mind will always run and wander. And that's what this mindfulness, it's bringing it back to, the present, isn't it?
It's like you say, we're always looking ahead, aren't we? We're always looking for what's next.
Of course,
but actually, are we appreciating what's going on around us before it's gone? Because it will be gone, won't it? And it is just about, a bit of recognition. What am I grateful for in my life at the moment? Where I am at my life? And whether that's you studying a course or whether you're going through a difficult time, it's all part of what's shaping you for your future self, isn't it? Actually thinking about what do I want in the future? But actually, it can be difficult when you're in that journey and you're thinking about, God, this is tough. I just want to get past this. I want to, complete the course. I want to get through this difficult, you lose somebody. I want to get past this grief, back to who I am. The reality is you're probably not going to go back to who you were. You're going to be a slightly different, I guess, a new self almost, aren't you?
I think these especially sort of massive things like that, and they're always the kind of things that jump to my mind. They're catastrophic things that may happen in life, or they're the things that are going to shape you, and it's how you deal with those things rather than it's not so much the situation. For me, it's my reaction to the situation. So mindfulness takes away that quickness to react in the moment of, it's usually anger or whatever emotion that you're feeling at that time. It's that quickness to react, and that mindfulness kind of just slows it down, that reaction, and puts a barrier maybe in front of it where I have got the time, or just a little bit of a buffer zone to come away and think clearly, rather than I'm in it and I'm running with it. and then it's harder to come back from that for me.
Yeah. And that's it. Until you reflect on it, you just, the classic example of somebody cutting up in front of you in a car, that really annoys me, to be honest. And no matter how many times I've tried to look at that in the stuff that we do, I'll forever be getting annoyed at that. I know exactly what's going on there.
Yeah.
Someone pulls out in front of me, I'm annoyed. Even though we've looked at that process before, interpreting a situation, how I think, then how I feel, then how I behave.
Yeah.
It still doesn't change, because it's still difficult, even becoming aware of it.
Because that's real life, isn't it? That's real life. Those stages, those processes that you've spoken about there, your reactions, your emotional state to the situation, and that's not real life. That it's only when we can look back in reflection that when we look back in hindsight, that you can see stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think it's just having the awareness for me that I shouldn't react this way, maybe, and that's enough to slow it down.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
I guess reflecting on it, and whether it's with somebody in a car, or actually a relationship, someone that you're close to, romantic or not, whether it's a friendship. Actually, I'm sure we've all said stuff that we probably regret, or reacted in different ways. Have I overreacted to a situation that really isn't too big? Nobody's really been affected by it. But I think for me, that's when I sort of notice, if my reactions with things change, maybe I feel a bit more tense. I notice then that maybe I'm filling up a little bit with what I'm taking on. Yeah. And actually these sort of exercises is the right time. So maybe, for me, I notice I'm probably more reactive sometimes to using mindfulness than being proactive. Actually before I'm getting like that, I'm thinking, oh, actually, do you know what? I'm pretty good at the minute. Yeah. So I'll leave it. Yeah. But really, I probably should be looking at it earlier on before things change, if that makes sense.
See, that's that interesting, that, for me, because I'm probably the opposite.
Okay. So
I do practice
do it
it, so it's as though I've got a bit of an armour, a bit of a shield, so when this stuff does come, maybe a bit of a head start. Okay, yeah. Or that buffer zone I was talking about, just so if something does come along to knock me off kilter, I'm at least, I'm not starting from zero. I've got just a few under the belt to maybe click the speed up a bit and take it further. Yeah. But I look at it as preventative rather than doing it after the situation. That's what I've found works for me. Yeah. And I don't know whether that was maybe age that. I don't know, but I find that as long as I keep my hand in, then when these troubles do come along, I'm in a better place than if I hadn't been doing it. Yeah. Ultimately, that's what I'm saying.
And you're more aware of it then, aren't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You're more aware of when things are maybe getting more, emotions are becoming more intense, or you're in a difficult situation. Yeah. Actually, if you're practicing this stuff already, you've identified what that is. Yeah. You know where that's coming from. Yeah. It's not a build-up and I'm not feeling like myself. Yeah. It's not just building up and building up and building up. You're already aware of it. Yeah,
and I think it helps me with sometimes as well, and I can only speak for me because this is how I see life, isn't it? Sometimes I can't even pinpoint what's made me if I feel disturbed, right? Or sometimes I can't even identify the emotion. I might think I can, but I can't. Yeah. I just feel heavier as I walk through the day, maybe. Okay. So I know something's going on. Yeah. But maybe I don't know, or a situation might have affected me more than I gave it credit at the time. Yeah. I just feel a bit heavier. Yeah. As I'm wandering through life. Yeah. But if I get this stuff, I know when I'm okay with this stuff, when I feel lighter. Right. And when something does come along, I can bat it away quicker, rather than take it in, play with it, and then get rid of it. Yeah. Does that? Yeah. Yeah. I can roll it off quicker. So even like the identification of emotions and situations, and I can still get them massively wrong. I just know that this puts me on a better emotional and reactive keel, if you like.
And sometimes it's all right, I guess, to not know quite how you're feeling
Yeah.
or what the feeling is.
Just
You're just not
something-
feeling yourself
just
as something that, as you
there.
say, something heavy.
Yeah.
You're wearing a heavy emotion, aren't
Yeah,
you? Whatever it
of
may
course,
be,
yeah.
but actually not realising,
Yeah.
what it is or being able to identify it.
And that's what this thing is for me. It's breaking it down because it's too complicated. It's breaking it down to be simple, and sometimes it's all right to know I'm feeling something, but I don't know what I'm feeling. But
Yeah.
it's heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. I don't. It doesn't need to be identified. It probably will do if it doesn't subside. Further down the line, it'll become clear.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in this particular moment, it's all right to just not be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's dead important for people to know that it doesn't take a counsellor to, we'll identify this and do this and it'll disappear. It's just knowing sometimes I'm not all right in this moment, but I know I will be okay if I do a little bit, just tweak a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I guess a bit of hope, isn't it? If you're kind of looking, past the difficult period.
Yeah.
But as you say, not actually just identifying something that is difficult. Maybe you've gone through a difficult experience losing somebody.
Yeah.
That emotional pain, that's a normal reaction really, isn't it? To losing somebody or to, going through a difficult moment, maybe you lose your job, you're overwhelmed with stress. These are normal reactions, I guess.
Yeah.
But actually
it's
just,
it is normalising it for people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And because if it's not normalised, then I'm feeling this emotion and I'm isolated, so you may as well just double the pain because I'm on my own dealing with it.
Exactly.
So if you take the isolation away as well and just say, you know what, you don't have to know what it is, it's just okay to not be okay. And it's a bit cliche that, isn't it? But I can't really
true,
put it in
it?
a different...
It's true. Yeah, I think as human beings, reassurance is massive for all of us. If almost that maybe not people, as you say, you can only speak for you. I can only speak for me. But if people are going through hardship, going through a difficult time, actually recognising that is normal.
Yeah.
If somebody's maybe gone through a similar situation or has gone through a difficult period of their life, actually just recognising, what you're going through is a normal reaction. It's your body's way of protecting itself. I've been hurt.
Yeah.
In whichever way possible. Of course, you're going to change, whether it's kind of trusting others or, as you say, reaction to losing somebody. I think that's, a normal part of who we are as humans, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah. One that's massive for me is sport, and people don't realise that's kind of mindfulness as well, isn't it? As you said before, you have to look after yourself, physically, mentally as well. And you can do mindfulness while you're at the gym. I can do, or I can certainly put something on YouTube for 10 or 15 minutes when I'm on the treadmill.
Okay.
And it can ground me. Because I find that when I'm exercising, I have to take care of my breath. Or it has to be more prominent anyway than just during the day.
Yeah.
So that guided meditation is more relevant to me when I'm exercising. Because I have to be consciously breathing to get the oxygen in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've found those two go hand in hand for me.
Yeah. I couldn't speak for you, but do you think when you're in that moment, as you say, you're on the treadmill, maybe you're watching something mindful, you're not really thinking about much else other than what you're doing?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Maybe there might be stuff that you're thinking, I've got to do that. If you're exercising in the morning, you're recognising there's stuff to come in the day, but actually you're just there, you're just concentrating one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And that's what it is, I think, because I'm active physically. There isn't enough room that there usually is for all the thoughts to come in, because you've got to concentrate. So I find it easier to practice when there's less going on here. And so I'm exerting myself physically. And I wouldn't say exertion, but I've got something to focus on with my mind rather than you should be going faster, drop it off, pump the speed up now, and all that, and it comes in, doesn't it? But it's being able to just get rid of it.
But the doubt, I guess, of the day, I mean, especially for me, sort of exercising, the doubt will be removed if you're running, for example, on a treadmill. There's no room for failure, really, is there? Because you're going to hurt yourself. You've got to keep going, and you're almost pressured into a situation where you are exercising, you are feeling good, having a bit of a blowout really from the day, but actually you're not thinking about too much else because, as you say, there's no room for that, is there? There's no room to think about anything different.
And I think if there is a particular problem, and I'm doing this kind of stuff, especially kind of if we take the problem and in the gym, for example, when I come out the gym, the problem will be in the right perspective inside, rather than too big.
Right.
So if say it's a problem where where you are either struggling emotionally or something like that, it can be overwhelming, can't it? And then the feeling of being overwhelmed with it.
Okay.
Whereas if I can take it in the gym, it kind of finds its right size rather than just being too big.
Okay.
Yeah, after I've done the certain things in the gym, it'll bring it back into order.
Is that going back to what you were saying earlier about sort of your reaction to the problem?
Yeah,
so actually
of course,
not what's happened. I'm in the gym, then I can sort of exercise and maybe gather some thoughts, and actually then it's how I'm reacting.
Yeah.
Maybe not initially.
Yeah.
But you've had time to process it.
Yeah, and rather than like being in the problem and just probably making it worse, being able, like you said, to watch it from above, if you like, and get a better perspective on why maybe it occurred, rather than just, right, how are we going to deal with it? Well, maybe let's have a look further back and how did it come to this point anyway?
Yeah.
And then, it's just a better perspective, I find.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of development, really, isn't it? Actually, how do we process things? We learn from stuff. We identify it. So as you say, you could identify, how you're feeling about something, maybe a particular relationship, a friendship, somebody that you know, and you maybe something changes and you think, oh, I've not seen that side to them, or actually, so you identify that, but then what comes after that? It's that processing time, isn't it? It's how you deal with that, what changes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But again, doing this stuff gives me the headspace to be able to look that far ahead, and maybe see the change in the behaviours that I could have implemented, rather than just being in it. I can see kind of both sides, either the before, the after, whatever it might be, and it's not overcomplicated. It seems it when you're again in it, but if you can remove yourself just to be more level around it, and that's what this stuff enables me to do. Yeah.
Do you not think though as well, being a counsellor, seeing it with clients, actually the mindfulness aspect is something that is used and is really helpful if we're talking about ourselves. Actually, that processing period, we're talking about our own emotions here, of course, not speaking for other people, but actually that process period. So say, for example, somebody's in a counselling session, that interim between the next week, it's how we process stuff, how we become more aware of what we're doing. It is.
And but it's that reaction again, isn't it? Because if you go from one counselling session on the Monday straight into a counselling session on the Tuesday, you haven't had time to do that process, to slow it down, to maybe look at different aspects of whatever the situation might be. I'm coming in on Monday rage, and it still hasn't passed by Tuesday, so I'm still rage. And it's that process, isn't it? And unfortunately, it can be very slow. And it's horrible. It'd be lovely if it was just a 24-hour thing and it went, but unfortunately it isn't. And that's why I said before, I'll do this stuff on my good day to make sure that when my bad day comes, I've got a bit of a buffer zone. I don't just wait for the bad day to happen, then I get involved. Because that's too late for me.
Is that because it's uncomfortable stuff that maybe you're looking at, and actually, if it is difficult emotions for you, do you think actually being, or is it just actually being prepared for it?
Yeah, I think it's just having a little bit, because life gets in the way, doesn't it? So it's just having a bit of awareness that I'm okay, but I know it can change very quickly. For me anyway, So for me, it's a bit of meditation, the mindfulness about kind of the situation where, and seeing it for what it is rather than having an emotion attached to it. Yeah. Gym, exercise, and like that doesn't have to be intense kind of stuff.
No.
You can do mindfulness walking, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Getting out in nature's been, it's been scientifically recognised to boost people's mental health.
Absolutely.
So it can be, so mindfulness isn't just kind of one action for me.
No.
It can be a number of different ones that all come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's absolutely, as you say, being sort of scientifically proven, they show that it does improve the likes of your memory, your concentration.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Has all these benefits,
Yeah.
something that we're aware of, but actually, as you were saying earlier, maybe on a good day is when you'd look at it, and that's fine. I think that's probably the same for me, really. I'll be recognising when I'm struggling, but then if I'm feeling ready to do it, or maybe I'm feeling in the mood for doing it, that's when I'll practice it and actually be aware of. But I think for me, it is almost like breaking. I think we spoke about it earlier, breaking that routine of what you already have. You know what you're doing. I don't know, you're going to work, you've got the things you enjoy, you eat, you sleep, you've got a routine of what you're doing, but actually bringing something like this in, even just for 10 minutes, can seem like, wow, such a big thing to where am I going to find the time? But actually, is it more achievable to just be bringing in 2 minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah, and I think, I think I think it's better just to start, not even with 5 minutes. For me, it would be 2 minutes, 2 minutes of this stuff. And then I think instead of just trying to build it up really fast, I think what usually happens, and I'm not saying for everyone, but what usually happens is it builds up naturally because people are starting to feel the benefit.
Absolutely.
So it's not by the end of the month I want to be up to half an hour.
No.
And so every day is a minute added. It doesn't work like that. It seems to increase without me wanting it to increase, because it's just making my day better.
Yeah.
So, so.
Absolutely. And I guess that's part of what this is. It's removing the goal, isn't it? Like you say there, I want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can speak for myself. In my life, a lot of things are goal orientated.
Yeah.
I want to be here, or I've got to do this. You're recognising stuff that you're aiming for. This is one of the few areas where actually it's okay to be feeling how I'm feeling. It's okay to be doing nothing.
Yeah.
And actually just recognising this is time to remove the goal.
Yeah. I think that's massive, because that, as soon as there's a goal involved, if it's not attainable, failure, demoralisation, all the other stuff that comes with that kind of head game without realising it's the head doing it to you.
Yeah.
And this just removes all that for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. But it's been, I think ultimately the thing with mindfulness is really, isn't it, to, relieve stress, kind of stop that overthinking, that overwhelmed feeling of it's too much, can't handle it. And just being able to recognise things that are happening and the effect they're having on you, but being okay with it happening to you.
Yeah. Being comfortable with the uncomfortable, isn't it? It's sitting with it and actually recognising.
So it's a good way of putting it.
Because if we are having maybe bad thoughts, we're recognising, I'm struggling. Yeah. We want to stop that. We want to fix that. Yeah. And actually, if that's part of what's going on for us, maybe something bad has happened, and it's going back to what I was saying earlier about that reaction to something negative happening. That's us trying to protect ourselves.
Of course,
We're recognising that a negative experience has happened. Actually, this is how I move forward from this, by protecting me or my way of coping. Yeah. And I think that's massive, just actually being aware of that. It's okay to feel like that. Of course, reach out for help and actually try stuff, the likes of the mindfulness, but actually recognising that, it can be quite normal to feel
I think
hardship and pain.
It's taking that stigma away, isn't it? Everyone feels like this. When you were saying about the goals before, it doesn't automatically think, as soon as I achieve this goal, then everything will be dandy. because that's what your head tells you. But then all that happens is you just change the goal as soon as you get there anyway.
Exactly.
It's the inside stuff stays.
Yeah.
It just manifests in another goal, another achievement, another whatever it may be. So this stuff's working on the inside stuff for me.
Yeah.
So that I'm adaptable rather than being so straight focused on that goal. This is it. If I don't get there, then the whole world's going to end.
Yeah.
Well, no. This stuff makes me able to see and be adaptable in life.
Yeah.
You know,
taking the pressure off yourself, I guess, isn't
well,
it?
yeah. Do you know what? It's probably resilience, isn't it? Probably makes me more resilient. That's actually a fair point. Yeah, it makes me more resilient as in thought maybe if something comes along in life, as it does, oh, it's going to be catastrophic and it's the end of the world. Not with everything. Or I love routine, me.
Okay.
So if my routine changes, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But it makes me more resilient to be able to adapt.
For when a curveball comes in.
And it doesn't even have to be a massive thing. It can be, oh, that meeting was cancelled. So instead of it being a catastrophe, oh, the meeting's cancelled, I'll have to do it next week, and I've got no room in my diary, and I'm off in a minute.
Yeah.
I just go, well, you know what, it got cancelled. That's okay. And it'll get sorted when it needs to get sorted.
Yeah.
So see even just the two different reactions in something simple that do occur on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I'm able to just adapt and not feel as though, you know, the whole world's caving in. It's not.
Preparing yourself almost, isn't it? As you were saying earlier, actually just being aware for when you are in it, here's my options.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just reacting emotionally.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm thinking as well.
Yeah. And that, you know, that it's that keeping your emotions in kind of some kind of check or order and being able to react appropriately rather than either up here or down there.
Yeah.
Just in somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And all this kind of stuff helps me be able to do that. Yeah. And it's a really individual thing, this as well. Because I know you can do group mindfulness and you can do group mindfulness walks and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's a very individual thing because you're doing it for... Ultimately, I'm not doing it for you.
No. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I am doing it for me.
Yeah.
And for how I feel and my mental health, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a great believer in it, mate. Yeah.
Me too. Are we good there, do you think?
I'm good, yeah.
Yeah.